today's attendance, and let me pass it around. And so, look, Chapter 3 test is up and available, and it's due by 11:59 p.m. Sunday night, okay? So make sure you get that done. Are there any questions pertaining to the material in Chapter 3? Your question, okay. So we have one question, and that is, and it's the same unknown, right? Okay. So I'm trying to avoid erasing this, but let's suppose that we have n is an unknown, if and only if, let's say, not n, okay? These are the same n, okay? So since it's unknown, what we have to do is we have to suppose n could be true and n could be false, okay? I'll forget about that negation for a second one, we'll just put it there. When we are assuming this n is true, that n would be true as well. Does everybody understand that? That we'll have to do something with a negation sign later, but we should assume that it's true, and when we're assuming that n is false, well, that would make this false as well. Does everybody understand that? But now, of course, we have a negation on this, so what we would end up with is true over false, if and only if false over true, because of the negation. Everybody understand that? And then we'd have true if and only if false, which would be what? False. And then we have false if and only if true, which would be false. So we would have false either way, so we would know that that is what? False. Does everybody understand that? But the general point is, if I have an unknown and I see the unknown later, when I'm assuming the first unknown is true, I must assume the second unknown is true at the same time, right? Now, of course, that one does get negated, but does everybody understand what I'm saying by assuming that it's true at the same time? Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions pertaining to Chapter 3? Everybody good? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to start Chapter 4. It's really rather short. I'm going to explain it all in a quick time. And then what we'll start doing is some of the homework associated with the chapter, okay? All right, so so far, you know what an argument is, and you can differentiate between a non-argument and an argument, right? And then we said that there are two basic kinds of arguments, deductive arguments and inductive arguments, okay? And one major point in this chapter is we're adding a type of deductive argument, okay? We are adding an argument can be deductive by virtue of its form, okay? Remember, we just learned about the concept of validity, right? And that applies to deductive arguments, and that a valid argument is one that if the premises are true, the conclusion has to be true. Does everybody understand that, okay? But remember what a deductive argument is supposed to be. It's supposed to be something that can guarantee the truth of the conclusion given the premises are true. Well, that sounds just like validity of a valid argument. Does everybody understand that? So, arguments can guarantee the truth of their conclusion by virtue of their form if they have a certain kind of form, okay? And so, you're going to say an argument is deductive by virtue of its form if it has any one of these argument forms, okay? So, what you'll have to do is before you decide, oh, this argument is inductive or deductive or something like that, you should always ask yourself, if I symbolize this, what would its logical structure look like? Does everybody understand that? And if it matches one of these forms, then it's a valid argument, and so we're going to say it's a deductive argument, okay? And so consider this argument form. So those are the premises. If box, then circle, and you have a box, well, what follows from those two things? Circle. Does everybody understand that? So if box and circle, box, therefore circle. So if you came across an argument that had that structure, you would say it's deductive by virtue of its form, regardless of what kind of evidence type it's using. Does everybody understand that? Deductive by virtue of its form. Now look at this one. If box and circle, we don't have a circle, so what? We must not have a box. Not box. That's valid as well. So we're going to say, if an argument has this form, we're going to call it deductive. Everybody got this? Okay. Hypothetical syllogism. If box, then circle. If circle, then triangle. So what follows from that? Well, if we have a box, then what? We're getting a triangle. Does everybody follow this? There are people following that the conclusions follow, or do we need examples? Yes?
Oh, I'll really have to look at examples.
You need examples, okay. So if Steve starts drinking, then he gets drunk. You know those people who can't drink in moderation? And if he gets drunk, he throws up. So if Steve starts drinking, what do you know?
Steve throws up.
Then get a bucket, right? Okay. This one, box or circle? Not box, must be circle, right? And this is called the
Code one, box or circle.
Yeah, okay. This is called
Use
this.
the contact info for
It's because I bend my wrist and it hits the button and it starts listening and blah, blah, blah. This is called the disjunctive syllogism, okay? Let's suppose by the smell you've determined you stepped in dog poop. It's on your left foot or your right foot. Check your left foot, no dog poop. What do you know? It's on your right foot. DS. Okay. Over here, box or circle. If box, then triangle. If circle, then triangle. Therefore what? Well, suppose this is say you're going to win first or second place because you're in the finals. If you win first place, you get 25 bucks. If you win second place, you get 25 bucks. So what are you going to get? Someone say 25 bucks. 25 bucks, okay? So that's simple dilemma. Now, this one over here is technically called constructive dilemma, and we'll work on these names in chapter 5. But you'll often hear me say complex dilemma. That's what I would have named it, but I wasn't in charge. You're going to win first or second place. If you win first, 100 bucks. If you win second, you get 50 bucks. So what are you going to get? 100 or 50. Okay? But the point is, if you see an argument and if you mentally symbolize it and you see it has this structure, you're going to say deductive by virtue of its form. Okay? Suppose you have a burger and fries. From that you can conclude, I have a burger. Right? That's simplification. Suppose you say, I have a burger, I have fries, oh my gosh, I have a burger and fries. That's called conjunction, okay? And now this one is a little bit funky. Suppose that we have box. We can say box or anything, okay? Now, why can we say anything? Well, remember what it is for an argument to be deductively valid, and that is this. If the premises are true, the conclusion must be true, okay? So suppose that this is true, okay? True or anything is still what? True. So that is deductively valid, okay? So if you see an argument that fits into one of these forms, you're going to say it's deductive by virtue of its form. You will not have to give them names. You will not have to identify the argument type, the form type. Okay. Well, let me say one thing, and that is this. Okay. There's only a couple of things that are introduced in this chapter. One is that some arguments can be deducted by virtue of their form, okay? So you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm gonna be testing you for being able to recognize when an argument is deducted by virtue of its form. Everybody got that? So, unbelievably, when I give the test, this is a possible answer deducted by virtue of the form, and some people never select that. Well, what would the point of this chapter be? Does everybody understand that? So you're gonna have to be on the lookout for that on the test situations, and if you don't have any, you need to go back and think about it again. Does everybody understand that? And by the way, remember chapter 1, we were differentiating between inductive and deductive, and we were telling which kind, and we're doing that again, right? We just have an addition, okay? So, one of the things I have said, it's in the simplest, and that is this. If your performance on chapter 4 test is better than your performance on chapter 1 test, I will use your chapter 4 grade for what? Both chapter 1 and chapter 4. Does everybody understand that? So if you did not do well on chapter 1, here's your chance to redeem yourself. Everybody got that? Okay, all right. But there's a couple other things that we're gonna have to be able to do in this chapter, okay? That's another class, okay. So we're gonna, and right now I'm just talking about deductive arguments. Suppose that you've determined an argument is deductive because it's one of these, okay? Then you're gonna ask yourself this question. Must the conclusion be true, assuming the premises are true? So the premises might not be true, but what are you supposed to do? Suppose that they are true, and then ask, would the conclusion be true? Does everybody understand that? So if the answer is yes, we're gonna say that the argument is valid. If the answer is no, the premises could be true, but the conclusion could be false, we say that the argument is